Hello and welcome to Team Liquid's strategy guide series for Nerub-ar Palace. I'm Eiya, and today I'll be presenting Telegon's breakdown of the mechanics and strategy for heroic Ovi'nax, the Broodtwister. This encounter has 3 phases, each defined primarily by the layout of the arena. There are 3 black blood canisters positioned in separate corners. Each canister defines a third of the room, so you'll move between these 3 areas as semi-distinct phases of the encounter. Shortly after engaging the boss, he'll move to the nearest black blood canister and channel ingest black blood. While he drains the canister, the boss will pulse AoE damage and apply a stacking healing absorb to the entire raid. Once the canister is emptied, black blood will pool beneath it, spreading outward and creating an area denial effect. As you can see, many eggs are scattered throughout the arena. If these growing black puddles or sanguine overflow reach any eggs, those eggs will hatch. The spawned adds will be empowered and trigger a raid-wide dot called Caustic Reaction. Each of the 3 areas will have one of the 3 add types, with the dominant area containing 6 eggs of that type and 3 of the other 2. The 3 types of eggs, the adds they spawn when hatched, their mutations from black blood, and their normal mechanics are as follows. Colossal eggs spawn a colossal spider. Mutation Necrotic causes the spider to have 35% increased HP and empowers Vicious Bite to also reduce healing taken by the target by 8% for 15 seconds. These adds have a tank buster called Vicious Bite that targets their current aggro holder, dealing nature damage and causing the spider to gain a stacking 25% damage buff. Squirming eggs spawn a voracious worm. Mutation Ravenous causes the worm to have 35% increased HP and 75% increased cast speed. Voracious worms spam cast Poison Burst, which, if allowed to complete, inflicts 1.7 million damage to all players. These worms cannot be moved from their spawn location. Quivering Blood Clusters spawn 6 small blood parasites. Mutation Accelerated causes the blood parasites to have 35% increased HP and gain 10% increased movement speed every second while alive. These adds fixate on random players. If they reach the fixated player, they debuff them with Infest, a light 10-second dot that, upon expiration, spawns 2 more blood parasites that fixate on new targets. There are 2 ways that eggs can hatch into their respective adds. We want to avoid having any eggs hatch due to contact with Sanguine Overflow to prevent empowered adds and extra raid damage. To prevent this, we'll need to utilize a mechanic called Experimental Dosage, where the boss periodically debuffs 4 players. After a short time, these players explode in a small AoE, hatching any eggs hit by that AoE. Throughout the fight, players will be debuffed with a magic debuff called Sticky Web. When dispelled, this debuff explodes in a 10-yard radius, rooting any players inside that radius. Volatile Concoction is a relatively impactful tank mechanic. While it is a simple tank swap on every cast, upon expiration, Volatile Concoction deals raid damage based on the tank's current HP at the time of expiration. The healthier the tank is at the time, the less damage the raid will take. When it comes to strategy, there are 4 main problems to focus on. 1. How will we move between the 3 areas of the arena? 2. In what order will we break the eggs with experimental dosage? 3. How can we ensure that players know which eggs to break during the encounter? And 4. What systems can we create for controlling the adds to ensure we can deal with them effectively? First, how should we choose the order of areas? We recommend starting with the hardest or most annoying area, which, in our opinion, is the area with 6 caster worms. By dealing with this area first, we should reduce the likelihood of wipes later in the fight. After the worm-dominant area, we suggest moving to the spider-dominant area, and finally, the parasite-dominant area. Second, we should choose the egg-breaking order by prioritizing eggs that are at risk of being reached by black blood, while also creating the ideal pairings for tanks and raid positioning, as well as worm targeting. This order deals with the hardest areas first, while creating add groupings that, in cases where 2 caster worms are present, establish a clear distinction between a ranged add and a melee add. This allows for intuitive targeting and, with a simple kick order, a solution that doesn't require a weak aura. Additionally, it prevents any adds from being empowered by black blood, assuming all debuffs are used correctly. Third, we need a system to help players remember which egg to break and when. For early progression, we recommend using a weak aura solution from Relo. This weak aura assigns a marker to each of the players debuffed with experimental dosage. As a result, you can assign a reliable player to place world markers on the 4 eggs you want to break, and the weak aura will automatically assign players such that all they have to do is move to the correct marker. If you wanted to spread responsibility between several players, you could assign 4 players to always place their world marker on specific eggs in each set. However, this comes at the cost of more potential points to fail. Combining individual visualization and memorization with these in-game utilities will create the most consistency and success. Finally, we need strategies to deal with the adds we spawn. As mentioned earlier, several strategies can help with warrant interrupts, including assigned range and melee players to separate targets based on boss positioning. Warlock's Curse of Tongues can increase interrupt consistency by slowing cast times. Using the interrupt on nameplate weak aura, configured in the format available in the video description, can also be beneficial. Lockout kicks like Shadow Priest's Silence, Mage's Counterspell, or Balanced Druid's Solar Beam can also be very effective. The spiders need to be tanked by the off-tank, so make sure they quickly acquire aggro to prevent any accidental deaths. For blood parasites, we should attempt to control them as much as possible. Ideally, we want to group them using abilities like Mass Grip, Sigil of Chains, Death Grip, Ursul's Vortex, or other control abilities like Mass Slow, Earthbind Totem, Typhoon, and Wing Buffet. Adds that aren't grouped can be kited into melee by the fixated player. Once grouped, they should be kept together to die quickly to cleave and AoE, preventing them from reaching their fixate targets and doubling. Finally, we should spread out before Sticky Webs is cast to allow healers to dispel without rooting other players. Emphasize and pre-position for this and experimental dosage. As always, we'd like to remind you that this guide is based on data and observations gathered from pre-release testing environments. The information provided may not fully reflect the final state of the raid encounter, and adjustments and changes can occur before the official release. Use this guide as a reference, but be prepared for potential differences in mechanics, tuning, and strategies when the raid goes live. Any significant changes will be noted in the description of this video. We hope you found this guide useful. Please feel free to leave feedback or commentary below, and keep an eye on this channel as more guides are going to be coming out soon. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.